Welcome everyone to a very special Sunday edition of Conversations the Void. I'm your host, Graveyard, joined as always with my off-screen producer, Salem. Make sure to say hi to him. I know you guys like to. Thank you, James, for that from last week. I am pleased to introduce our guest for today. He's a writer, director, and actor with works including Dariuss, Bits, and upcoming Benefactress. Please welcome to the Void, the one and only Guerilla Metropolitana.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. How are you doing today?
All good, all good. Currently working on the editing of my upcoming film, The Benefactress, which should be out fairly soon, hopefully a couple of months from now. It's quite extreme, so I will have to see what distribution companies fit, the best for this kind of film, because it has a lot of extreme sexuality, very graphic. You might describe it as borderline pornography, but horror.
Right.
So it's very graphic, but there's a social commentary involved, which basically, as the center subject, is how far can a filmmaker go in the name of artistic freedom? Where does he end that limit, that red line? Well, this film is pretty much my vision on this subject, which in few words is the following: there is no red line. I believe a filmmaker, in his own word, should be free to really do whatever he wants if it is dictated by vision and not by gratuitous sensationalism, shock value kind of thing. But if it's truly an artistic vision, there should be no rules, no morals, no moral code, no law, no rule, no nothing that should stop that vision from flourishing.
Right. And I just had my guest that was on last Wednesday. His movie that he did, 29 Needles, was declined from all streaming stuff. It's not even on Tubi, and it had to eventually end up on Earth just because it was so gratuitous and violent, kind of like a Serbian film. And I know he had issues with that, distribution and everything like that too. And we just got done watching a month worth of New French Extremity with Gaspar Noé and stuff like that. And I watched Dariuss, and your movie is kind of in the line of that, kind of mix of like Giallo and I think like Gaspar Noé as well.
Yeah. Again, I think what I find frustrating is that it seems that we're going more like backwards rather than forward, especially when it comes down to sexuality. All these countercultures, offensive, sensitive viewers. It's bad for kids, it's bad for women, it's bad for this, it's bad for that. And I don't believe in any of that stuff. I actually shit on it lately, because my attitude is, you don't like it, don't watch it.
Right.
That's my attitude. I'm a libertarian by definition, which basically means I don't like a big brother telling me what to do, whether it's the state or any other regulator that tells me how should I make my film, how many asses I can show, how much vagina can be on the screen, and things like that. I don't believe in any of that. And if some people are offended by what a film portrays, again, that's their problem. Don't watch it. Dariuss is a film, since it's my first film as actual feature film I'm referring to. It's a film that does not hide anything. But again, the purpose of the film is not that. The purpose of the film is to show human loss.
Right.
It's to show the dramatic part of human loss. So everything else, the gore, the sexual graphic violence, the pornography, all of that is almost like a background thing. It's not a central thing. This is not a film that was conceived to sexually arouse people. This was a film to open people's eyes in what human behavior can be under certain circumstances. And with this new film, The Benefactress, it's another story. It's another film. And like I said, the subject is, how far can a filmmaker go in the name of freedom? Can this justify cruelty? Can this justify violence, and etc., etc., etc.? Well, the answer is yes. It does. It does. Obviously, within the confine of a fantasy world, I'm referring to. I'm not talking about reality here. I'm talking about fantasy, because filmmaking, at the end of the day, is fantasy. It's not real. So whatever you're putting into a fantasy work, whether it's horror or anything else, it's fake. It's not real. So it should be completely free to express the point without any censorship. And ironically, Dariuss is on Prime US.
Really?
It is. I was actually shocked, but the company that bought the film for United States, which is a company called SRS CINEMA,
okay,
which is a quite big company actually, and they bought the film. They did a release of DVDs and Blu-rays, and lately they even put the film on quite few platforms, and one of them is Prime US. And I was very happy, but also quite surprised to see a film with that level of graphic violence. Again, only 2 or 3 scenes, because the film is not about that. The film only has 2 or 3 moments like that. But those 2 or 3 moments are fairly disturbing to many people, and yet it's out there. So obviously, miracles in this day and age sometimes can happen.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I make independent horror films as well. And one movie they worked on about 2 years ago called Split Screen, our segment that I was part of, they deemed too close to a snuff film or too realistic, and Amazon Prime said no to it.
Yeah. It says a lot. I mean, again, to me, independent cinema should return to a more underground kind of route, rather than trying to imitate mainstream cinema. I'll give you an example. If you watch any horror film on Netflix, for example, most of them are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
They're all done using CGI. They're all about supernatural. They don't show reality. Dariuss, there's one specific moment where I ejaculate in the film, and what you see is real. And the actress' body, naked body, is real. The actress touching herself, etc., etc., etc. All of that stuff is graphically exposed in a realistic fashion.
Right.
And that is what I look for in my quest as a filmmaker. Realism. I'm not particularly interested in supernatural or monsters or whatever. I think there's a lot to talk when it comes down to human nature. There's a lot enough in there for me to examine. I don't need to look for, subjects outside of the human nature, since human nature is so complex on its own.
Right. And it's, as you said, it's a social commentary, because, we can say all these monsters exist, but let's face it, the biggest monsters are people.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. And I think it's fascinating because most of the people who actually like my film Dariuss happen to be women, ironically. And at first I was quite surprised, but then it made perfect sense because the film talks about incest a lot. The film talks about necrophilia. There's some references to also to pedophilia.
Right.
It touches various subjects. So women tend to be more sensitive, and those women who are not put off by that, on the contrary, they tend to want to examine the film a lot more in depth. Whilst perhaps men, they look more for the gore aspect of it, the graphic aspect. But women tend to be perhaps more profound in their analysis of the film, and that's probably the reason why a woman writer, Del Gibson, she decided to write a book on my cinema, which will be coming out at the end of this year.
Okay.
After the second film would be released. And because she saw the film and she said, Guerrilla, I've never came across with a film that exposes human nature, especially women's nature, so well as much as Dariuss. Incest, for example, which is a very ancient subject. It goes right back to the Greco-Roman period. So it's nothing new there. And yet it's still a taboo to see a mother with her daughter having a sexual bond. I find that it could be, at least sometimes, extremely fascinating because it depends on the context, obviously. But if it's not just a sexual thing, if it's much more than just, as in Dariuss, basically it's two people, two women who are completely lost by the tragedy that happened in this family, and they look for comfort with one another. So it's a human quality to it. It's not just sex and that's it, So again, there's many different ways to show sexuality, whether it's rape, masturbation, or whatever. It's how you expose those things that makes the difference. It's not what you expose, but how you expose it and why and the context around. And there's a number of things around these things in general.
Right. As you said, the underlying motif of this movie is grief and how people deal with it differently. Right.
Yes.
And that's like I said, that's the underlying theme. And I don't want to give away spoilers or anything, but the third act is unexpected, for sure, with what people are dealing with. But it's a great stuff. And I think he's talking about indie filmmakers. The 70s indie filmmakers were making I Spit in Your Grave, Last House and Left, which were that taboo subjects at that point in time. Then we had the big censorship and video nasty movement of the 80s. And then in American cinema in the late 90s, we kind of got away, went all PG-13 and took French and other independent people to make these taboo movies again. And America's took 10 years for us to come back to something like that again. And now, we're back to essentially being everything Hollywoodified, as you said, with Netflix, something like that. And now it's back down to the independent creators to make these movies that Hollywood never do.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was David Bowie, and I said this to an interview some time ago. I think it was David Bowie who said at one point, artists should influence culture, not the other way around. And I think what we're having these days is the opposite, is the culture influencing artists, including filmmakers.
Right.
Filmmakers, they don't want to make films that might upset a culture. They don't want to make a film or short film that might upset a specific ethnic group or a religion or a gender or this or that. Without going too far, I mean, take, for example, an old classic, Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Such a great film. Just the dialogue of that film today, you could not have it.
Right.
Because it would be classified as racist.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff that Clint Eastwood says in that film today, it would be classified as racist.
Right.
And none of that is true, because Dirty Harry is not a racist film. Define racism. The gratuitous use of certain words these days are, in my opinion, the true cancer of the culture. In other words, you have to show in a film a specific ethnic group, you have to show an homosexual person, you have to show a person of color, you have to show a white person, you have to show a religion, you have to show whatever, in the name of inclusivity. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in that, Matt. I don't believe in that, because I believe that an artist, a filmmaker, should do truly whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Without offending, but truly whatever he wants. And if, for example, a sexual graphic violence might appear to be offensive to some people, again, we live in a democracy, if I remember correctly. And there's something called free speech, free expression. And it doesn't say that we all have to agree with that, but live and let live. You don't like it, you don't watch it.
Correct.
But you put a ban on people's creativity just because you don't agree with what that particular filmmaker is doing, because that's the beginning of dictatorship.
Right. Oh yeah, I completely agree. It's if you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't stop me from enjoying it or watching it. It's really that easy, as you put. And like I said, I appreciate that candidness of it, because it's very true. You could make the next generic horror movie and it get $2 billion, but is that really what you want to do? No.
Yeah. I mean, filmmakers these days can do a lot, in my opinion, if they truly put an effort to it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've tried to do in Dariuss was to get rid of all my fears, get rid of all inhibitions, and shoot the damn thing in few days.
Right.
And say to the actress, get undressed, get naked, start touching yourself. 3, 2, 1, action. And here we go. Right. And, to catch the moment, to do it in the moment, and to go out there at night, break into premises that were basically, not open to the public, like cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
And going there and start shooting with my camera, and many other situations like that, which I've done in Dariuss, guerrilla filmmaking, which is where my alias comes from, Guerilla Metropolitana. Yep. Without crew, just you, your camera, and your car already with the engine on, in case anything happens, and red number hidden, with sellotape, in case CCTV cameras might catch you, and so on. So I've done Dariuss. A lot of it has been done with that kind of spirit, almost like 12 years old, attitude kind of thing,
Yep. Oh, we all snuck into places at that age.
Yeah, it's like it's like peeping, somebody getting undressed, getting naked, and then you're there, and million things happen in your head. You get excited, you get curious, you are afraid to get caught, but at the same time you want to immortalize that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my attitude with filmmaking. I want to immortalize certain moments, and I want to do it for real. In other words, I want to feel it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I'm feeling, whether it is fear because I'm climbing a fence to get access to a place where I should not be in the first place, or to be sexually aroused, as I was for real when I was filming my lead actress. And situations like that, because I was emotionally involved, I was able to transport that onto my camera, and consequently from my camera onto the actual film. I believe in that kind of vibration. I don't believe in, at least not in my case, I don't believe in over scripts. I don't believe in over organization. I don't believe in multiple takes. I don't believe in a lot of that. And I don't believe in film schools either.
Right.
I will say that. I'm not saying that film schools are not good. They are good, but they don't do me any good, because what I've learned, only I could learn it from my own experience. And what I create can only come from my head. There's no film school for Dariuss. It can only come from the creator's mind. Yeah, there's no method, there's no textbook for it. And I think if filmmakers in general, they use that kind of approach without being too afraid of offending people, perhaps there would be more decent underground films out there.
Right. And I kind of want to get through your thought process of the editing of this movie, because, did you kind of storyboard this out? Was this more like a free form, impromptu, like jazz type session when making it with all the scenes you shot?
Yes. Yeah. The film presents this very basic story. It's a very basic story. A young girl, goes missing, possibly killed, and the family, experiences the tragedy. The mother, the father, the grandmother, everybody. And then it shows how each of these individuals react to this pain, until somebody enters their life. And some people, and that's the interesting thing, some people question the real existence of that character.
Okay.
That's how psychedelic the film is.
Right.
Some people have been saying, you know what, I don't even think that character really exists. And other people say, I think that character is the punishment for the family. So it kind of opened my eyes, because it shows you how people's reaction and sensitivities, how different they are when they're watching something. And because this is such a visionary film, it's not a 2 + 2 = 4 kind of film where everything at the end makes sense. This is a film that from the moment it starts, there's a big question on the screen that says, the most important questions are the unanswered ones.
Right.
So that says a lot about it. That basically is the film. You, at the end, you know even less than what you knew at the beginning of the film. And in fact, you can watch this film on reverse, backwards, and it will still make some sense. That's how psychedelic the film is, because this is a film that was conceived originally under the state of trance, while I was basically in trance. Not because I took drugs, but because I was hallucinating naturally, listening to music. And as I was hallucinating, I was writing on paper all these very short scenes, random scenes. And then only later on, some weeks later, I grabbed these dozens of papers and I started working these scenes. Because the film, if you watch the film quite carefully, it's more like a long, short film in vignettes.
Right. Each character is their own story.
Yeah. It doesn't flow like a regular film. It's like mini Polaroids attached with one another.
Right.
And you kind of work the order, but then you can swap the Polaroids and you can still see some sense. Yeah, okay, that still work. That still work, So that's the concept of Dariuss. It's a film that you can watch in many different ways according to your sensibilities. And And when this character enters their life, that's when the shock begins. Then,
right,
when you have cannibalism, necrophilia, and rape, and many other things as well, and on top of that, you have meta cinema, the constant filming, of this character, filming, and is filming directly to you, the audience, so you can see what's happening.
right,
And that was me behind trying to communicate with the audience and say, don't go anywhere, because you're not anymore a viewer. You are now one of us.
right. Yeah. Yeah,
You
you're a
know?
voyeur. You're a voyeur at that point.
Yes, you are. And that to me is the fascinating thing about Dariuss. And I mean, a very acclaimed film critic from Offscreen, a famous online journal of cinema, he described the film as a trip, as a psychedelic trip of unspeakable madness, because it shows you, the insane. It shows you things that are so insane that you even question whether they are real. They are so insane that you question, are they real? All those voices and
Right.
noises, the pig squealing, and the horse, and all these noises, and screaming and sobbing. There's a lot of pain, and I wanted to focus on the subject of madness, because he always fascinated me, because I experience madness as I have severe OCD.
Okay.
Along with other things. So that was a subject that I could relate very closely, without doing much hard work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was very natural, because I felt so close to the subject that I say, I can do this, and I can do it naturally without too much of a hard work. And that's the result. It's a film that is loved by non-traditional horror fans, and by traditional horror fans, on the contrary, is seen with great suspicion, because they go like, "What the hell is this? What is this? This is not Killer Clown movie. This is not, a typical slasher. This is not natural." So they are kind of confused behind the idea of Dariuss, but the other side of the audience, which again, primarily are women, in fact, they seem to love it. And, the reasons I can only speculate, but I'm actually happy that women can go in such a depth in their analysis of the film. And with this new upcoming film, it will be even more interesting, because the level of sexual depravity in this new film is very, very high, and it's right there in front of you.
Okay.
And the camera doesn't stop rolling. The film is one big shot.
Okay.
So yeah, it is split. It is split still in kind of frames and shots. But really, practically speaking, the film is a film within the film. So you are actually watching what I'm preparing for you at that specific time.
Okay. Huh. I can't wait for that to come out.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
like I said, we do another podcast where we review horror movies a lot too. So, we use that as an excuse to watch all these movies that we missed growing up, and also why I love doing this show too, because I get to talk to independent creators and watch movies like Dariuss that I would never have seen otherwise. You know what I mean? And I love learning, the behind the scenes stuff and the inspiration for filmmakers and what they do. And so this is why I do the show. Is why I'm going to do it as long as I possibly can, just to speak to people like yourself. And, as you said, independent is where all the creativity is coming from in horror movies, or movies in general, even. Too.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the beauty of it, because, when you're doing underground, I'm referring now to underground filmmaking specifically. When you're making an underground film, you know your limitations, but those limitations can become either your tombstone or your virtues. In other words, either you do something about it, you deal with it, and you go like, okay, what can I do with these tools? Okay, I can do this, and that. Or the other kind of mentality is, oh, if I don't have that, I can't do the film. Well, I think a filmmaker should be able to tell a story no matter what. And that's why I think to be in the position to have limited resources, I see that as a blessing, because it really takes the best out of you as a filmmaker in telling a story. You know, if all you need to be a good filmmaker is big budgets, then you are not much of a good filmmaker, really. I mean, let's be frank, it's not that difficult. If you are a decent technician, it's, you know, it's not that difficult to be a good filmmaker if you have a very high budget.
Right.
Well, if you are a shit filmmaker, even if they give you, I don't know, $10 million, yeah, you can get away with CGI, expensive special effects. You can cast some big name actors. You can hide behind that, and the film might look good, but you can tell whether or not the filmmaker behind truly has a talent or not.
No substance.
Absolutely. And my favorite filmmakers, in fact, well, some of them are people who often work with very limited budget, you know, and without going too far, even take, for example, a film like the first Rocky, 1976. It was a low budget film. It was, I think it was $8,000, sorry, $800,000, which is nothing in Hollywood.
Right.
You know, in Hollywood, $800,000, even in 1976, when films were costing $10 million, even back then, you know, was nothing. And look at the wonderful masterpiece the director John G. Avildsen did with the first Rocky film. You know, that magic was never there after in the following ones, you know, and they were far more expensive films, you know. So that is a lesson that a filmmaker, if he has a vision, you know, he can do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it depends what you want to do. I think there are exceptions, obviously, but not so much with sci-fi, for example. Sci-fi, obviously, you need CGI these days.
Yeah.
You need a lot of computer graphics and so on. So it's possible even in sci-fi, I guess. But definitely when it comes down to drama, horror, or other things, there's a lot you can do with minimum budget.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot you can do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You wear many, many different hats. You know, I was just filming something 2 weekends ago, and while I wasn't technically in the movie of that opening scene, you know, I was holding lights, I was holding the monitor, I was setting up the scenes, I was kind of rewriting things as necessary. You know, this long take that we did, you know, bumping in the car for action and then just kind of scening and storyboarding out, just because, you know, there was a small cast and crew. We're talking like 7 people.
Yeah.
And you know, and 3 of them being cast. So we just had to work together because we don't have a big budget just to make it work. It's a lot of work because you don't have one person to do this one particular thing. You do whatever you can to get the shot, to make the movie, to make it happen.
But that's the beauty, isn't it, Matt? I mean, that's the beauty of independent. I prefer to call it underground, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, isn't that the beauty of it?
Yeah.
I mean, I find that fascinating, the fact that you are with 6, 7, 9 people making a film using 2 cameras, skeleton crew, and hey, boy, that's cinema. You know, that to me is the real magic.
Right. You
know, when I shot a few months ago my second film, which is currently, like I say, still editing, The Benefactress, it was only myself and 3 actresses, of which one was from United States, just like you now, on Video Link.
Okay.
She was performing from Video Link.
Yeah.
So I had 2 live actresses and a third one from United States through Video Link.
Okay.
And we were in this house for 2 days. And it was only me, my assistant, 2 actresses, and the third one from Video Link. That's it. And I had no technical collaborators. I didn't have anyone for the lightings or the microphones or anything like that. So I was doing basically the job of 10 people. But it was so fascinating because that was the core of underground cinema. The actresses were practically naked because, like I say, it's a very sexual film. I was running around, half naked myself on the set, holding the camera with the other thing hanging off, and it was totally politically incorrect, according to these days, where, if you're in front of women, you can't do it. I was doing everything. And the actresses were just used to seeing me walking around the set, half naked, working on the camera. Okay, girls, okay, 3, 2, 1, action. Let's take the shot, Yeah. And, that kind of wild approach, like I don't give a fuck kind of attitude. And you make the film, and the film is extremely brutal, and yet we had a lot of funny moments. I mean, the main actress at one point, when we were on break, she said, "Guerrilla, we're not shooting. Put your pants back on, please, will you?" So things like that, which to me, it's my word. In my world, it's normal to have my actresses asking them, "Okay, ladies, get undressed. Let's see your beauties. Let's start filming." It's absolutely normal. Some people might regard that as, I will never do that, which I respect. But obviously, I personally have fired over 200 actresses, candidates for this film, because they refused either to do sexual scenes, or because they refused to do nude scenes, or because their husbands didn't want their wives to be in a film like that. So for one reason or the other, I had to let go around 200 female candidates until I found the right actresses willing to do completely nude scenes, willing to do hardcore sexuality, brutal sexual scenes, and so on, within horror. And they were very brave, extremely brave, because the amount of violence, it's incredible in that film. And they were not afraid. They come from traditional background. They come from stage, actually. So from them to go from a complete, regular, normal kind of acting background to complete underground madness was a big leap forward. And a challenge. And that to me is something that I admire a lot, because it shows you the talent of certain actresses, that they can go from theater to underground porno horror at the same time without having problems. They go like, well, it's a job. Let's fucking do it. That's how they see it. They don't go like, my boobies are out, my vagina is out. They go like, it's a job, I'll do it. Fuck it.
Right.
They go like that. And and again, it's about opening that door of freedom. And this particular film is about that. It's about how far can an artist go in the name of freedom, And but the same concept is also behind Dariuss, because there's a lot of stuff going on in there as well. That obviously that was a film just like this one that could never be made by a filmmaker who was afraid of breaking boundaries. I'm not afraid of breaking boundaries, because what's the point, Matt, of making a film, be a filmmaker, if you start putting self-regulations? This I won't do because I don't want to offend ABC. This I won't do because I want to offend, you don't do that. Well, I certainly don't do that. And, it's about freedom. That's how I say it. It's about the freedom to do what you want with your cinema.
Right. And that takes a lot of guts to do, because everyone goes, I want my movie on Netflix. I want 1 billion people to see it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Dariuss, my cock is there.
Right.
And I'm happily married, and my wife doesn't have any problem with that. She said, okay, it's your cock anyway. Right. So, it's just another thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've done modeling for gay magazines in the past, nude erotic pictures. I don't have any problem in doing that. I've got the attributes to do it. I don't mind showing it. Right. I don't hide behind. I don't go like, oh my god, I got a family, I got this. No, let's fucking do it, man. It's about freedom to me. You're not hurting anybody. You're not harming anybody. You're just expressing yourself.
Right.
So why do you want to shut someone down just because you don't like? Perhaps you have the problem. Perhaps the problem is yours. Maybe you're too insecure. That you put your frustrations on other people. Otherwise, there's not justification for it. Right. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does. So awesome, Guerrilla. So we're about time here. So I want to give you your time to give your pluggables. Where can people find you, follow you, and learn all about Dariuss and your upcoming film, Benefactress, as well?
Yeah, Dariuss is currently in America with SRS CINEMA, DVD, Blu-ray, as well as Prime US. In Europe, is available on Amazon UK through self-distribution, and also in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, with a new release from a German company called Ultra Visual Films. And the new film is called The Benefactress, an exposure of cinematic freedom. It's currently at editing stage, and when it will be ready, I don't know what company will buy it, but it's a very extreme film. It's very hardcore. It's very graphic, but it's also very unique, and I hope people will enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Guerrilla, for coming on and discussing Dariuss and your work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
When your next movie comes out, maybe we'll have to have you come back on as well.
I'll be happy to.
All right. Well, thank you, Guerrilla, for coming on, and follow us all social media, PodOutatNight here. We'll see you next time, and don't get lost in the void. Good night.
Good night.